Welcome to the Stash Cast, where innovation meets real estate. Let's dive in.
Hey,
Hello.
how's it going, John?
Good, brother. Good to see you.
You too, man. You too. I've been thinking about this all day. I'm really excited.
So am I, mate.
So, why don't, for the people at home that don't know you, why don't you give them an idea of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, wow, that's a story, mate. That's probably a two cigar, three drink story.
Yeah.
So I am from Australia, as you can tell, a little bit south from Texas, where I now am. Love
Yeah.
America, became a citizen under the previous Trump administration. Love America, love Texas. Greatest country in the world, greatest state, love this place. So I was trafficked as a kid by the woman who raised me. But the story before that is that I am an Indigenous Australian. And part of the issue with one of the challenges faced in Australia for Indigenous folks is government removal, the whole concept of breeding the black out. So by the time we get to the third generation of Indigenous Australians, our melanin it's a recessive gene. And you end up with blonde-haired, brown-eyed kids, which I was. And I actually just reconnected with my family about 2 years ago.
Wow.
So
How was that experience?
I don't know yet. I'm still sitting with it.
Okay.
It's very interesting to go from orphan to tribe. Very interesting to go from a Western paradigm of having no sense of graduation through life. And amongst the Warramungu, which is my tribe, and I'm an Imbrani man. So Imbrani is our term for all people. So we don't see ourselves as Aboriginal, we see ourselves as Imbrani. So Warramungu man, an Umbrani man, Warramungu, Manu Kariati, a man who comes up out of the dirt. So in our culture, you at 10 years of old, there's a graduation point where you move from being a boy to being into a young man. And then later in life, you move on into being an elder. I'm a Gulungur, keeper of the laws and songs for my people. So I grow up in this Western mindset with a sense and a wondering of what does it mean to be a man. And yet I find out these people in my 60s have this whole pathway for men like us. And the challenge I find today in our society for men like us, there is no sense of graduation internally. We monitor and rate our lives from the outside in. We don't live our lives from the inside out. We're told very young who we are, what to do, what to dress, where to go. And we get to a point in life where it just implodes for whatever reasons. One of mine was recall of what happened to me when I was trafficked as a kid. You
Hmm.
have to ask yourself these deeper questions like, who am I and what do I really like doing? And do I really like my life? What is it to be a man in the later part of life? When do we graduate beyond stuff to something with a sense of soul and meaning?
Those are phenomenal questions.
They're big questions, brother.
Yeah.
And you got to sit with them. You really got to sit on the ground with these things and ask these things. And
Hmm.
I've often thought it's an issue of alignment, is trying to understand and I teach this. We started something called the Phoenix Collective Performance Mindset, and the whole thing we got is about aligning. How do I align the inside of me with the outside of me? How do I work out what is truly important with this? We were talking the other day about taking a left turn.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you've just got to take a left turn because we've been deviating for so long, going on this path where people told us should we go, and we end up out here just not enjoying anything. We can have all the stuff in the world, and it's nothing to us. So
Yeah.
we then go left, and people think, oh, it's a midlife crisis, a new car, new girl, whatever. It's not about that. It's actually about just not wanting to be here. So unfortunately, what I might do is a series of really dumb things. But if I end up over here and I'm going where I should have been going in the first place, you know what? I'm happy.
Yeah. And that is one of the fundamental questions of what was it you said? Who am I and what do I like doing?
Yeah, who am I? And what am I like doing? Or what am I supposed to do? Purpose, mission, vision, and values.
It's so interesting because as I reflect on my own life, my dad is such an interesting guy, and I just recently lost him back in March. He took this path of he graduated high school, came home and said, "Mom, give me a ride to the airport. I just joined the Air Force." And from there, he just forged a path and he did his time there in the Air Force. Then he went up to Alaska for 20 years and
Wow.
was a telephone lineman.
Wow.
And he was running crews. And the picture that we ran for his obituary was him with a big grizzly bear that he had taken out. And the story was that he was running a job site. He was the foreman, and the bear was like harassing the job site or something. So he went and told one of his guys, go out into the bush and scare him this way. I'm going to get up in the truck. And when he comes out, I'm going to take him out. And sure enough, that's what he did. He had, I think, a 444 Marlin. And I have the gun now.
Wow.
And it's him. He's probably 34, maybe. He's young and handsome and strong. And he's holding up this bear paw. And it's just,
Wow.
and I remember, so that was him. And he built a log cabin up there in Alaska. And I remember when I was getting started after college and trying to navigate different job offers and opportunities. I can't help you because I didn't take that path.
Yeah.
And especially now that he's gone, the thing that he said that has stuck with me is I would go out and just chase that. I would get up to the top of the hill and then look out over the range and, oh, I want to go see what's on top of that hill. And he would go do that. And sure enough, that's what he did through his life. And I find myself at 42 trying to figure out, because I've climbed the hills that I wanted to, and I've gotten to the top of those, and I'm not satisfied. And so it's, what hill do I want to go climb now? And I want to make sure that the hill that I do decide to go climb is worthy of it.
Well done. You're at the front end of a series of questions. I think losing your dad has been seminal for you. It seems to be like you are now, that guy. I think that, and combined with the faith that somewhere along the way, men have been tamed, and we're just not supposed to be tamed. And people have told us what to expect for ourselves. And your dad sounds like a guy that did go his own path. And maybe your path doesn't include Alaska, but maybe your path just is your path. But when we come to this, is filtering through those voices, even internally, down to what is my path. I'm 62, and I think I'm finally on mine. I know what it is I was created to do. I know that thing, and that's what I am in the passionate pursuit of, that single goal at the moment.
So what do you think it is? And then how did you find it?
So I had recall of what happened to me as a kid, and at 45 on a Thursday at about 10:45 in the morning.
It just
Everything
hit you.
it did. What it was, little frames of things that were done to me.
Yeah.
I saw these little frames, but on that particular Thursday, everything ran together like a movie. And I realized for the first time that was sexual abuse and trafficking. It was just growing up, it was just normal. I know that sounds odd, but you've got no reference. So then it's okay. And what that did was it caused a real retching in my soul. All of this inner stuff in my dark corners vomited all over my pristine life. And here I am. And I went from having a very highly successful speaking business, corporate coaching business, consultancy business, to a lock-in. I couldn't go out in public. I was a complete mess, a total stutter. Lost everything, my first marriage, the church I was running, the businesses I had. And I had a very successful boutique coaching company. And I realized that at some point after John Ageddon, I went from John 1.0 to John 2.0. Neurologically, the things that I did at just John 1.0, I couldn't do as John 2.0. My brain chemistry has changed, and that's part of what post-traumatic stress does to you. And John 2.0 wanted to sit under a tree, smoke cigars, and write poetry. And that's what he did. And at some point, I came to peace with that. But then I started to look back, and I've written journals, things, stories all of my life. But all of my life, I was told I needed to get a proper job. I never believed in myself. I wasn't in an environment where I had anyone speaking greatness to me. Just how stupid I was, how ugly I was, how incompetent I was. Anything I tried was just never good enough. So you end up armoring up to fight those voices as opposed to trying to listen to what it was. And I think going back to Australia and finding my family was very important to me because it gave me a sense of belonging that I've never had. I sat with Melissa this year and I said, I want to be a writer. I said, I'm a writer. I've written 27 books. So here's a guy who's written
One might consider you a writer already.
27 books, and I never considered myself a writer.
Yeah.
It's just like a carpenter who builds sheds, doesn't a guy who runs a lawn business. Your own lawn's all crappy. So I write all these books for all these coaching companies and things that I do. I've done all this stuff. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I am. And then this year, we took a big pivot. We took a big chance. We put all our coppers together in a jar and said we give it 12 months to find an agent. I've got one out of New York, tremendous lady. And I've written, during the last 5 years, I've written a 3-part book called Rats and Rain on the human trafficking side, my own story and what I was involved in the Epstein case and the Nygaard case. So I fictionalized that because I'm hoping people will listen. It's like Taken meets John Wick, that sort of stuff. But then this year I decided to write a different one because I wanted to try and refine my voice. So I wrote something about military sexual trauma. And that's the one that I'm talking to my agent about in September. And that's the one. She's shopping my memoir and she's shopping that. So all of that to say, here I am at the end of the year, 5 or 6 months out from a deadline. And I've got 2 books that my publisher's taking out. And I just went for it. Melissa said it to me about Australia. She said, if you don't go at 60 to try and find your family, you either need to go or stop asking yourself the question. One of the 2 things. And I went and I found them. And it was the same decisions, brother. I need to see whether I've got this because this is what I could see myself doing for the next 30 or 40 years is writing. And that just, when I think of it, it's easy. It's like it goes, and that excites me because I've been that goal guy all my life. But brother, here's the thing. No one told me like 10 years ago at any point in this journey to ever consider being a writer. So I don't know how you unpack that or discover that. I think maybe you've got to blow off a few things and dig around a little bit, ask some other people. Different for every man.
Yeah. What I find is that I'm not good if I make just a snap decision, especially if it's a major life sort of decision. But for me, if I sit on it and I think about it while I'm doing something else, right? When I'm at the gym in the morning, I'll be in the back of my mind when I'm going through the pain of the workout, whatever it is that I'm thinking about will be working its way through. And then depending on the issue, it could be a day or 2, or it could be weeks in the making. You'll arrive at the answer and then you say, okay, I'm ready to make that decision. So was it that process that you went through to help arrive at your decision that you wanted to officially declare yourself a writer and do that?
Yes, but being a man, being aware that I'm responsible to protect, direct, provide for my family. I've got a woman who loves me and I've got a role there. So we sat down together and we made a decision and I gave it a timeline. And I work at being a writer probably 35 hours a week on top of running 3 other businesses. So I had someone complain because I was hard to get. I said, you know what, brother, that's because I've got 30 minutes free a week.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not giving it to you because you just want to bitch about something. It ain't going to happen. And I got that focused on it, but I gave myself a deadline and I worked it like it was a startup. Okay, I'm going to have provision for the vision. This is my vision. I'm blessed enough to be able to have, you run a couple of other businesses that keep me going. But this is ultimately where, and there's no money in writing books anymore.
Yeah.
That's not. There's 1 or 2% of the people that ever do it make that money. But there's something about wanting to touch another person with a story. And I think that's the storyteller aspect. And so I set a deadline. I worked back how much money I'd need. I allocated that throughout the year. My overhead is probably 15% of my net income for running my business. Man, we trimmed everything. We don't go out. If people want to take us to lunch, we'll take a packed lunch. Odd though it sounds, we'll have them to our place. And we'll tell our friends. Those that think we're weird, I don't care anymore. Those think they're financially focused and they'll be. So what it's done is thin out, and it's been incredible, Stash, like thinning out that emotional bondage and baggage of people who just don't get it. John's just doing that thing. Yeah, John is just doing that thing. And bro, when I get there, I'll be that 20-year overnight success at
Yeah.
62. And thank you very much for coming. I've actually got more bandwidth. I've got more money. I've got more time than I ever thought I had, because all these things are because I'm just laser focused, like your daddy said, on that next hill. That's the
Yeah.
one. And I think the beauty of what your father said was, he said, you get to choose what the next hill is, because you can turn 360 degrees
Right.
and you get to pick that next hill. And it's then, okay, how do I give this a go? I want to try. I think when people do that, they only half-heartedly do it. And they go, okay, I get halfway, the bit of a valley, I'm going to back out. No, the aim is to get to the top of next hill. Am I
Yeah.
prepared to pay the price? Do I have the provisions to get there? Will I make the time to do the walk? And I'm not going to stop until I get there. Now, when I get there, if it doesn't quite work out or it ain't going to go, then come February next year, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. Or, bro, it worked. Dig
Yeah.
the view, brother. Dig the view.
Yeah. Huh. It's as you're speaking, I'm just reflecting on where I'm at and what that next hill or journey is for me. And I think what it is to go out and focus full force on Needle, which is my startup. I've sacrificed a lot for it, and I know it's a good thing. I know that there's a market for it, and I'm going to give it 6 more months, probably till next May. That's my deadline. If it works, then, like you said, look at the view. And if not, then okay, we gave it a shot. We tried it and move on to the next thing. But I'm going to throw everything I have at it.
So
So,
you're telling me we're having cigars and bourbon in May
yeah,
to celebrate, one way
absolutely.
or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other.
The definition of success isn't the arriving. It's got to be that journey. It's got to be the fact that you took all that you had, put it on black 13 and spun the wheel.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, I had the gonads to do that.
Yeah. And it is that I achieved a position. I gave a presentation this morning to a development company here in town. And when they reached out to me, I was like, hey, I'm not a broker anymore. That was my professional identity for
Mm.
a long time. That was the hill that I chose to climb.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we know, but we still want you to come and present to us. And so, yeah, I was like thrilled. But I guess where I'm going with that is, I don't know. That was a hill that I chose to climb. And I accomplished it a couple of times. And I don't know if I was bored with it or what, but I wasn't. I was thrilled actually. But life said, no, you're going to go focus on this now. And I fought it and resisted. And then when you and I spoke last week, the decision was once again made. This time it was as clear as it possibly could be. There was no ambiguity around it. So I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to go do.
It's awesome.
Yeah, scary at times,
Oh, absolutely.
but I look at it as I've already set and accomplished goals already. And if I can do that, I can do this. Yeah, I'm not scared of it. I'm excited, and I'm excited for what the journey will bring. I'm excited for the new skills that it will impart upon me. And I'm excited for the relationships that I'll build and develop. And this is one of them, because one of the things that they're like, you would have to give up the podcast and be completely 40 hours a week in the office with us. And I was like, I can't do that. I get to have great conversations like this. And I get to go out and say, hey, I've got a better mousetrap.
Yeah.
I oftentimes I have notes up. I don't have any notes for this because I was like, we're just gonna roll with it. How did you get to write 27 books and not realize that, hey, I'm a writer?
I think I was writing as a byproduct of what I was doing. I was running a consultancy company, and I would very boutique leadership training and consultancy, and I would write pro formas for courses that we were developing within those organizations. When I look back on the material, they were all these series of books all around mindset, leadership, personal development, performance mindset, series of books around that. So I suppose I didn't see them as books until now. Here I am. As I said, we started the collective and I'm looking for material and I've gone back and I've thought, and these are all books. And I have written some books, probably a dozen or so, but I, I think at that stage, writing was something I did as opposed to some way that I saw myself. Like as men, we
Uh-huh.
like identity.
Yeah.
We are known by what we do. Your dad was a lineman in Alaska.
Yeah.
You are a developer. Men like projects. So we assign those tags to ourselves. And I think it's okay when we assign them to ourselves. It's not okay when we accept the assignation from somebody else. If you saw yourself as a developer, that's totally different than someone else declaring that over your life. So when and my wife Melissa has told me for years, you're a writer, you're a writer, you're a writer, you're a writer. And I was in Ireland and there's a writers museum. Of course there is in Ireland, just down the road from the Jameson place. You know what I mean? So I'm in there and I'm looking at this museum full of some of the greatest writers in Western civilization. They all had jobs as bankers, school teachers, landscape professors, and they did all that and went home and wrote. Joyce was one of those.
Huh.
And I stood there looking at these stories thinking, hang on, this guy was a school teacher and wrote that book. We don't ever hear about him being a school teacher. We just hear about him being a writer. I thought, hang on, I'm a writer.
Uh,
And what I do 9 to 5 is provide for this vision. And so there was this shift that started to happen. So I present it like in March, I made a decision. I'm a writer. It was this drift that had started to happen and this understanding that there was something in me that was trying to manifest, something in me that was trying to speak.
yeah.
And I think where I am now in 2025 is an extrapolation of this process back in 2015 when I had recall of what happened to me and understanding that what was once very interesting to me was no longer a skill I could even do. And then I started to come to terms with who I am. I think the more we focus on authenticity, the more likely we are to collide with our future in the now. I think when we're inauthentic, when we're trying to live by someone else's standards outside in, then it's very difficult for us to really be able to hear our own voices. And until we can hear our own voices, you've got to cut a lot of clutter out.
Yeah.
A lot of emotional, a lot of perceptions, a lot of other things. You've got to cut that clutter out in order to be able to get a sense of peace, even enough to be able to hear the.
There's a lot of living by comparison. They
Oh
call
yeah,
it trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever analogy you want to have. And I think that it's an easy trap to fall into, especially when you're in corporate America or you're in a sales position where you're measuring results based on money and commissions and sales. It's easy to fall into the traps of materialism,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah. It is because
But
that's
it
how everybody's
sucks.
living. Yes, it does. And I think that's where we have to some point unplug from it and say, you know what? Hey, and don't get me wrong, I love money. I can do a lot of good with money. I,
Yeah.
but I've also learnt this year that I can do without most things. I've got food, a woman who loves me, 4 chickens that she loves, a dog who loves her, a 20-year-old Mercedes because it was given to me and I needed a second car. And I'm driving around South Lake where everything's a Range Rover,
Yeah.
the new whatever it is. So, bro, I get profiled. I get cops pulling me over for what the hell are you doing in a neighborhood like this? What I'm doing, brother, is not having a car payment.
Yeah.
And so I don't have a car payment. The one note I've got is on a house. 4 years ago, we were 4 days and $400 from homeless. So
Uh,
my build back has been pretty strong. So here I am now and I don't have a single bill I don't have a debt. I've got a mortgage that will probably be paid by next year, and that's it. So if you think if you see that as some level of freedom to be able to pursue a dream, because at that point, the amount of money you need to live on is somewhere in the 50s. It's no longer in the
Yeah.
150s or 250s, which is what you need to live in America now.
Right.
Like the
Yeah.
base salary is about $150,000 per household, or you're going backwards, man.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, for me, it becomes 50. I can walk at Walmart 3 days a week and make 50 grand and write 4 days a week. So
Right.
my goal is to write 4 days a week. What am I doing to position myself to fulfill that vision?
So at the top of our conversation, I thought you were taking it in a different direction of, I guess where I thought where it was going was, no, give up on goals and ambitions, but it's not that. It's just reframe what it is that your goals and ambitions are, and then go out and work for those as hard as you can.
Yeah, reframe them based on authenticity. There,
Yeah.
there's four things, I keep them on my desk, that I wrote coming out of this that I've tried to live my life by anchors. Number one, be authentic.
Yeah.
Number two, imagine the future you want to inhabit. Allow those truths to set your goals, and then live Susu. Susu, white knuckled courage in the face of overwhelming odds.
Uh-huh.
None of those things are easy, but all of those things line up is purpose, vision, and value, mission and value. So
Yeah.
I think you've got to have goals. I think as men, that's what we want to know what's on the next mountain. It's just,
Yeah.
I want to know what's on my next mountain, not your next mountain.
Right. Yeah. I heard another definition of success early in my career when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grow up. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
Yeah. Earl Nightingale, mate. That was one of his quotes. Love that.
Yeah,
The word I said was Susu, white
there it
knuckle
is.
courage in the face of overwhelming odds. But that's success, the passionate pursuit of a worthwhile goal. Again, that goal is still something we have to define for ourselves.
I used to feel like that goal was a bigger house or newer cars, or I still do like watches, and I still do like cars, but I want 50 acres of land out in the country. I want to have a couple of chickens. I had chickens growing up, and I every year I would get into so much trouble that I would have to, my punishment was to clean the chicken coop, which is a disgusting job. It is the worst job ever. But now I look back and realize that no, the chicken coop just needed to be cleaned, and for whatever reason, my parents decided to frame it as a punishment because it was terrible. Probably because I was screwing up, and they're like, yeah, we need to get this kid back into line. I want a vineyard, and not like to have, I want a vineyard because I just love the idea of growing something on the land and then bottling it and then being able to sit back and enjoy it. I don't necessarily have a, I want to be the best winery in the whole world and quality and quantity and etc. No, I just want to play. And what I've also thought about with it is to have a couple of Airbnb cabins on it where you have enough land where you can have this experience where people come into it and there's a beautiful main house, but then you've got some cabins that are out there that are secluded enough where they can go and spend their own time. But if they want to come and partake in the events that are happening at the main house, we'll call it, they are able to do, but at the same time, they can just do whatever they want back at their cabin or just come visit for a day too. That's like the thing that I'm focusing on. And it's okay, how do I get there? I've got to build Needle and have either a successful sustaining cash flow out of that or have a liquidity event out of it. But either way, those things are going to be able to get me to that. And I want some farm equipment like a skid steer on it. Have you ever driven a skid steer?
Bro, every man needs a skid steer, and a bobcat.
It
Yeah.
is the most fun you can ever have.
Hey, I love tractor work, man. I'll go in
Yeah,
circles just mowing anybody's grass on a tractor. Big old John Deere, man.
sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I've got this 6 unit apartment building. I just got the certificate of occupancy today. Like it was tentatively approved, but I got the physical piece of paper today. When the guy gave it to me, I looked at him and I was just thrilled and overjoyed. I was like, man, you have no idea how much this means. This has been 2 years in the making. legit. So that felt really good, a really good accomplishment. But I built the parking lot. There's a backyard to the building that used to have another building on it. At some point, it got knocked down and they just imploded it into what was the backyard. And so I rented a skid steer and actually first they gave me a 19-foot excavator, like a huge excavator for a 2,000 square foot piece of land that I needed to dig. And so the guy comes and he drops it off and I was like, can you like show me how to
Yeah.
use this?
Where's the
Yeah, like how do you turn this on? And he laughed at me and showed me, and so that was good. But then later in the afternoon, I was like, I love that you gave this to me, but this is not the right tool. And so I got a skid steer the next morning. And yeah, I didn't touch the fence much. I had such a great time doing that. And it's not to say that I want to go be a heavy equipment operator, but there are worse ways to live your life.
That sounds like that's your next mountain, man.
Yeah.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah. I just got to find the right piece of dirt, I feel. But yeah, I do have it in mind. Now it's just figuring out exactly how to go out and get it. Are you taking the learnings that you had from your previous before from your John 1.0 and apply you've got to be. Applying some of those things to what you're doing now as John 2.0?
Very much. I didn't realize that probably the last 2 years my feet have been under me. And when we started building out the Phoenix Collective, it was like, okay, I need to have a look back over the last 15 years of recovery. I want to distill that down because that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars in 15 years. And I don't want people to have to go through what I went through. I want, if people will commit to it, we're seeing lives transformed in about 18 months. So I went back and got all that material and all those books, a lot of those books came out of me writing during that time and before that time. And they're just like tools in my toolbox is how I call them.
Yeah.
Tools that were sitting in my toolbox. And now that I've come out and I'm trying to build my life forward, I've gone back and I've realized I'm not starting from zero, which I imagined, especially after coming through the 2 heart attacks and bankruptcy and losing my kids, all that sort of stuff. I realized that I'd had so many tools in my toolbox already. And I just started taking them out and going, okay, I know how to do this. Wow, I've learnt this. This is in here somewhere. And now let me start to put this thing together. I thought I was cobbling it together, but in reality, I wasn't. It was all very divine. It was coming together incredibly. And that's what I've noticed. It's been line upon line, precept upon precept as I move forward. And like you said, all those lessons were in there. It was just for a time such as this that they've just come out and I've just started to be able to apply them.
It was just like you had to almost reorganize them to see exactly what you had.
Yeah. And to be able to apply them in a new context. Like you learn resilience back there playing rugby or doing bodybuilding, but
Yeah.
now you realize that physical discipline actually applies. It's a mental discipline.
Yes.
Resilience isn't the resilience to be able to go beyond the point of your own breaking.
Yeah.
All of those are mental activities. And I realized that during this whole period where I thought my mind wasn't working, my mind was rewiring in a totally different way.
That's fascinating. So how did you deal with that? Like, did you have like panic or you came to
All
realize
the
what was
time.
happening? All the above.
I had probably 5 to 7 years of nightmares, continuous nightmares about what happened to me as a kid. I had a
Yeah.
chronic, I couldn't go out in public. I was a total lock-in, lost everything. I was a total lock-in back in a 1-bedroom apartment, Besser block bookcase, mattress on the floor. I was worse off than I was at college because at least I could go out and get a job. Then I couldn't. So I was living on some property that I had, some income I had out of Australia, and a piece of property I brought in down here in Texas. And that was generating enough for me to survive. I was subsistence, man, ramen noodles type stuff.
Yeah.
And that period lasted for probably 5 or 6 years because it was very difficult for me to do anything. And during that period, I collided. I realized that Melissa was in my life, and I realized for the first time in my life I was happy, truly happy. And what others saw as trash, she saw as treasure. And she
Uh-huh.
just committed to rebuilding with me. And as together, we've just taken these steps, man. And it really has been just a little bit, and it's not an easy process. Coming back from anything is, be it financial or emotional or spiritual or just
Yeah.
life implosion. Um, but what I've learned through it all, through the recall of what happened to me as a kid, the multiple heart attacks, friends committing suicide, the loss of everything, the bankruptcy, the loss of my children, the loss of my career, my reputation, is that it really doesn't matter. It would
Yeah.
just commit to getting up every day, breathing, and taking one step. If that's all you can commit to do, then commit to do that, and eventually you'll get to where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because we remember what the light was, and we're hoping there's light ahead, but here and now is our only reality. And you have to get really comfortable at times with sitting in the dark. I know that sounds a bit philosophical or a bit miserable, but it's a reality because there's dark seasons. And it's okay because tomorrow the sun always comes up.
Yeah. I was a wrestler growing up, and that I think is what built the most discipline in me because that's hard
Yeah.
work. I think about that oftentimes as the thing that built that discipline. And it's not to say that I was the best wrestler ever, but it taught me to keep pursuing, don't give up. Because the thing about wrestling, as opposed to other team sports, is that it's just you and another guy out there and you have nobody to rely on. You can look to your coaches and they might have helpful suggestion, but really they're there to just yell at you while you're on the mat. And it's up to you to pull it out and determine whether or not you beat your opponent or not. And so like today, this morning, I don't wrestle anymore. I've been doing CrossFit since 2018, I think. And I started that actually after my we had started a business and it ended up failing. And I was like, I need to have a positive physical outlet. It just feels like that is one of the things that I can hold on to and get up and grasp. And even if the rest of the day is just terrible, at least
Yeah.
I got up and I got my workout in.
Yeah.
Like today, I almost didn't go. I got up at 5:20 for a 5:30 class and I got my life together and I got there a few minutes late and I'm
Got it done.
strongest guy in the gym. But it's that discipline that you have to hang on to and
The
help
hardest
pull you
sport I've
through.
ever done was bodybuilding
I bet.
because it was only me. Like
Yeah,
I laughed about the fact that you played rugby. It's a team sport. You've got lots of other people, and you can have a bad day, and someone will carry you. You
right.
can, but when it's something like wrestling or bodybuilding, and it's every mouthful, every meal, every day for an extended period of time, there is no one championing you
Yeah.
away. Like what you're doing now, brother, with CrossFitters,
Yeah.
and the only person who'll see me is me.
And that's the thing. It's like, I'm not going to go compete in anything. Some days you're the strongest guy in the gym or you have the best time or whatever it is. But some days just showing up is the win.
Yeah, that is the win.
Tell me more about the Phoenix Collective and what you're doing with that.
My aim was to help distill what I learned in overcoming trauma. And I realized that my story, although was very specifically ugly, could have the potential to be generally glorious because it was a very difficult topic, but the skills and the concept of being able to overcome whatever it is you need to overcome resonates. And I wanted to build a place where it didn't matter who you were, not exclusively to, but focused for men over 40 who realize that there's something else out there for them. And there really is very little out there for us. And I wanted to build a community that was going to help people with a performance mindset.
Yeah.
And online, men, particularly American men, don't make relationships easily or well. And I
Yeah.
wanted to build a place where we could connect around issues that are important to us, but with the idea of urging each other on to greatness, regardless of their field. And so, because of my background and my relationships with veterans and trauma people, the first lot of people in were police, first responders, veterans, a whole range of other people. And I just started to realize through that there's a whole wider audience out there who could benefit from a performance mindset. And if you haven't had great personal adversity, you will get great personal adversity. It's one of the promises that life has for you.
Yeah.
So you either prepare for it
Yeah.
So the Phoenix Collective is designed for that. The byline is Ashborne, I will rise. And yeah, because I believe anyone can get up and go again if they'll apply themselves for it. So what we did is we took these teachings that I learned through this process and we've made them very obtainable to people. Every day they get a video, every day they get a challenge. We get together once a week on a call. Can do personal coaching if they want it or they're not. I really wanted to find a way to exponentially share the sorts of things that I'd learned because one-on-one coaching can be very expensive for people.
Yeah.
They can't afford it. So we've built a community that helps facilitate those things.
How have you found the best way to forge those bonds of community in a remote setting?
Anybody who tells you it's easy not telling you the truth because women do things face to face, men do things shoulder to shoulder.
Sure.
We're developing a level of intimacy now, having an honest conversation. But if we want that to go exponential, it's a cigar and a bourbon somewhere, or
Yeah.
it's wine and a cheese platter.
Yeah.
And we can talk about anything, but it's this rub, this iron on iron, that actually helps a man's soul. So that's very hard to do it on an online setting. The only way I try, one of the tenets of it is really authenticity. I'm always open to relationships. I've got guys that fly in sometimes just to have a beer. If I come down your neck of woods, it'll be brother, like I'm in town. You want to have a beer?
For sure.
I try to create that, and we do it that way. Um, at some point, it'll go to in-person meetings and we're gathering and bits and pieces. That's always a long-term aim, but we are where we are, and we can only do what we can do. So if I can inspire others to go and try and find something that they can do and engage in, then that's what I want to try and do. But to your question, virtual doesn't really work for men.
Yeah. It's
It works
tough.
well for women.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of men are so lonely. American men are lonely, mate. Culturally from Australia, and particularly now I understand why from a tribal background, it's a lot different. But American men, by and large, are very lonely men.
Yeah.
I think if you can die with five, you're probably the richest person in the world. Five
Yeah.
brothers that will go with you and fight with you.
Why do you think that is? Why is it so difficult for American men to find community together?
I think part of it's culture. I think part of it is the commercialism, and everything is a competition. Like we view life and business as a pie, not a river, that there's a certain amount that can be contracted. If you're getting some, even if it's smaller than mine, you're still getting some that could be mine.
Right.
Because if we see life and relationships as a river and there's always enough to dish into it and drink from it and feast from it, then I'll sit with my brother and I will help him find water because I know he will help me find water. And that's very tribal, that's very indigenous way of doing things. And it's a little bit of an Australian way. We're a nation that when the Europeans came, they came into a wilderness and they had to survive and they had to do that together. As Imbrani or Aboriginal people, this was our manu, our country, our land. And for us to survive across this vastness for 45,000 years, it had to be done in community. So
Right.
we've got America, and we opened up America with a series of ports and stops, and we pushed out with an individual sense to try and dominate this land. And when we pushed out to dominate it, often we did it in competition against, as opposed to partnership with, not the indigenous folks, but with each other. And I think that psyche is part of what makes America great. You can achieve anything here if you really want to, and that's brilliant. But I think part of the commercialism and the capitalism, and I am a capitalist because it's just the only thing that makes sense,
Yeah.
but part at the exclusion of others.
Yeah. I love that you frame business as a river, not a pie. I've never thought of it like that, but it immediately clicks.
That's why you would find challenging in your industry. You're
Yeah.
probably very open with your relationships and
Yeah.
opportunities, and others aren't. And
Right.
I've got some friends that have incredible networks, but they treat them like Scrooge and they very rarely give out a dime. Whereas I think if I sow it, I'm going to reap it at some point.
Yeah. Like on this development deal that I've just finished, and what I've learned in my time in business previous is if you bring good people together and allow them to go out and do whatever it is that they do best, you're going to be all right. Like,
Yep.
you're not, this is not to say that you're not going to have roadblocks or issues along the way, but if you have good people that you're surrounded by and trust that they are doing, and they in fact are, it's all going to work out. Like, I had some of my contractors that weren't as great as they could have been, but the others have all been a thrill to work with, and it's okay. It's all working out. What were the 4 things that you have written down? Do you have that written down?
Yeah, these 4 things. Good.
Uh-huh.
Be authentic. Imagine the future you want to inhabit. Allow these truths to set your goals, and live Susu. Susu, Finnish word, means white knuckled courage in the face of overwhelming odds.
Huh.
That was weird.
I'll have to look it up.
I don't know, bro.
Really?
Bro, dude, what this guy does with a Bowie knife, Sisu, Sisu. It's great. Love that movie.
All right, I'm gonna look it up. We're gonna watch it. Maybe even tonight.
Do it, man.
John, I've been looking forward to this all day and really appreciate your time. If somebody's interested in reaching out or getting in touch with you, what's the best way to contact you?
Social, I'm on most platforms at Dr. John A. King, Dr. John A. King.
Okay.
My website is drjohnaking.com.
I hope you have a great rest of your day, man.
Thanks.
All right. We'll cut it there.
And please share it with me. Let me have the video.
Yeah.
I'll chop it up and put it on all my platforms.
For sure. Absolutely. I'll just send you the link like that. But yeah, thanks again. And I don't want to lose touch. I want to stay in contact. So
Sure, you owe me a cigar and a whiskey, man.
I do.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Love to have a chat.
Okay. I will.
Cheers,
All
mate.
right. Bye.